Our guest today is 2018 and 19 Captains Manager Luke Carlin, who apparently is on a farm somewhere. Luke, where are you?
Yeah, this is we got into the goat business with baseball being an uncertain future. Figured I had to amp up my farming game, so I got my Larry Moe and Curly behind me here, eating away.
If you can't be around people, then at least you can be around something with a pulse.
That's right.
So I mean, you obviously are around people all day, every day. You're hanging with your family in Texas. How's everybody doing?
Everybody's happy and healthy so far, so the extra family time has been nice. No complaints. Part of it's weird, like grilling in April and things like that are a little bit different. So, but trying to make the most of it.
What's work life like for you right now? I mean, obviously, probably like everybody else, you have a thousand Zoom meetings, but it's kind of disconnected from what you're used to, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit different. I enjoy a lot of it. I don't know that I enjoy it as much as being on the field, but it's still challenging. I would say a lot of it's moving into the professional development areas. So whether that's internal or personal, I should say, taking advantage of the opportunities that the Indians are still providing to develop the skills that we're going to need. And part of it's helping facilitating some of the discussions with some of our new coaches. So there's a little bit of both. There's a lot of book clubs and a lot of connections with outside resources as well. So the staff that I would be with this year in Mahoney Valley, we are all on a call with I think 6 or 7 different coaches from the Australian Football League. And so they're all on pause right now. And so it's just interesting trading, coaching tactics and tips with those guys. So it's been a very productive, 6-7 weeks, but the Indians are good at that.
How did you guys get connected with the Australian Football League? What are you guys doing with them?
Yeah, so it's really interesting. I think you had met some of our L&D people when they came to Lake County last season. So Josh Gibson and Jay Hennessy are, the VP and Director of Learning and Development with the Indians. And so one of the things that they have had going for a while now is this speaker series. And it's been once a month. It's been more than that now. It's been like once a week. But once a month, we typically have somebody that's a leader in the field outside of baseball come and speak to the group. So there's several notable authors and things like that have come on and either shared, the cliff notes of their research or whatever it is, to speak on a topic. And then as that influence has kind of grown, there's been other organizations on the call. So whether that's, Naval Special Warfare, or whether that's the Penguins or the Eagles, or, people from Google. And anyways, so there was these coaches on there from one coach in particular from the, they call it footy in Australia. And Jay connected me with him and we just kind of took it off. So we decided to go with a book club at first. And we were going to go through we are going through one of Doug Lemov's books called Practice Perfect. Not sure if you've heard of it, but he's in the teaching world and has published a lot of pretty cool articles in his blog since COVID. So anyways, we've been going through that book with 6. He gathered a group of coaches for some professional development stuff. So our staff is going through it with them. Long-winded answer to say that, yeah, we've got connected through Jay.
How many books do you think you've crushed since all of this started?
Or
in the off season in general, let's say, because you've had a lot of time.
Sure. Since school stopped, I was finishing up my master's last year, and so I graduated in December. So basically got 25 hours a week of my life back. So I probably should be spending more of that with the family, but it's been difficult to let go just of the learning. So probably more books than I should have read. Let's just say that. I'm crushing it right now.
Did you have a favorite?
Yeah, some of the most interesting ones recently were in spring training. James Harris put me onto it, and then our GM Mike Chernoff kind of threw it my way as well. And so when you get two of those really smart guys telling me that I should read something, I put it to the top of the list. And it was similar to Doug Lemov. The guy's name is John Hattie. He's also an instructor, a teacher from a teaching background who did research on research. And so basically his stuff is a meta-analysis of the research on what impacts learning the most. And so he does a pretty in-depth look about it and has written several books on the topic, but just as far as, the perspectives of learning and things like that. So I would say that's been some of the more impactful reading right now.
You're a big learner, big studier of like your craft, and I think generally not just baseball, but also personal, professional development, learning, teaching, all that sort of stuff. I know that when you first started with the Captains 2018, we talked about some of your influences before you got into coaching and managing. Some of those guys, like Rick Renteria, I know was a big influence on you. Like looking back now that you've got a couple of years of managing under your belt, like how do you feel about the notes that you took in the years leading up to your managing, how that's prepared you versus since you've had a couple of years, the learning on the job that you've done?
Yeah, the notes have been interesting when you partner them with kind of the more academic learning. So I guess one of the things that you get a feel for experientially is, and not to sound redundant, but it's a feel, it's more of an emotion, it's a sense of how people do things. And so we had mentioned Doug Lemov earlier. It's one of the things that he did in his studies of great teachers was that he started to identify like what exactly is it that the really good teachers do and naming it. And so it's more of a tactic, like a strategy, and then be really deliberate about doing those things. And so when I look back at whether it's, what Tito does well or what Rick Renteria did well, or, Mike Sarba or Chris Tremi or, whoever else, I think what the academics has helped me do is identify those things and name it and then understand it at a deeper level. So then you can know when and where and why to either use these strategies or adopt them or disregard them based on the group of people that you have. So we're kind of like reflecting back. It's about understanding what it is about these people that make them really successful, and then figuring out if it works for me while still trying to be authentic, right? I'm never going to be a Tito. I'm never going to be a Renteria or a Sarbi. So it's just finding out what it is and how it fits with me.
In your 2 years with the Captains, can you give me an example maybe of when you were able to successfully use some of those things you learned to help a guy or help the team through a certain moment?
Yeah, sure. And I think it has a lot to do with the staff that was with me as well. So, one of the things that the Indians do well is try to balance out the staff. And so it's really about, it's really about, that was Farley. You've met Farley.
I was going to say those goats sound different.
Yeah. So we got a different one. We got a new one. His name's Chewy. So Farley, you met, he was this mini schnauzer, and Chewy is a giant schnauzer. and they both like to bark. So anyways, yeah, balancing the staff is important. So to give you scenarios where I might, I kind of lean towards more of a Chris Tremy, pay attention to detail, a little bit more structure oriented, and feel really comfortable with that side of it, where the staff would come to me and say, hey, we might need to pay attention, be more empathetic here, and more on the personal side, and that would be more of like a Francona or a Sarbaugh there, or even a Renteria. Really showed the passion on their sleeve for the players. And so just understanding those, I mean, plenty of situations have come up where, we have to understand that obviously the players need to know that we care, but that we're also, moving the needle forward with them on their development. So I think that there's several situations like that, and that felt really privileged the last couple of years to have people that are staff members that are a little bit different than me. Just thinking about, like Joe Torres and Jason Esposito, they're different, and it helps. And it's about how we work as together we all make one good coach, as Travis Fryman always says. So yeah, again, another long answer to say, it's not just me, it's about the staff as well.
I'd expect nothing else. Let's shift gears a little bit and talk about your playing career, if you don't mind.
Sure.
So your very first game in the big leagues, I'm sure you've talked about this ad nauseum. You got to catch a couple of Hall of Famers. You're catching back in 2008 for the Padres, and you catch Greg Maddux starting the game, and then Trevor Hoffman closing the game. Now that it's been a few years in the rearview mirror, you've had some time to reflect on that. What do you remember most about that night behind the plate?
I think the anticipation part of it. I think it's difficult. I mean, some of the stuff when I talk about, my playing career, I try to really think about a lot of the preparation that would help development. So a lot of the stories that I'm holding on to are about, wow, this could really help this player, or I need to hold on to this story so that hopefully I can share this perspective so that it can help a young player's perspective. Haven't given a ton of thought into remembering how it feels. I think those things fade away over time. I knew it was really, exciting at the time. I'm sure we could get into a lot of the emotions and just what it was, but when you really think about it, and this is not to take away or diminish any of that, I think it's awesome, and very few people get to do it. So I do feel blessed about that, but that those aren't the things you tend to remember. You tend to remember, or at least I don't, I tend to remember more sharing moments with teammates. And so even though, I caught Maddux and Hoffman, and they're great dudes, and I wouldn't, I'm sure we would get along great and have a beer and catch up, but I wouldn't say that they're closest teammates that I've had. I've had teammates that I've either caught their major league debuts or shared a winning moment with. Those memories stick a lot more than, my major league debut. So yeah, I mean, anything that you would picture as a kid and you're like, yay, I'm here. Yep. That's awesome. It also goes away. And the ones that stick with you are the ones that you share with others.
Can I impose on you to tell one major league debut story that I've heard you share about when Trevor Hoffman came into the game?
Yeah, sure. So, they had prepared me, meaning the staff, the bench coach in particular, Craig Colbert at the time, who was my manager in AAA, had prepared me as well as anybody could have prepared a catcher to go in. As you might expect, or the audience might expect, that the catcher has some added responsibilities. They need to know both sides of the ball pretty well. And so there was a lot to kind of catch up on and be prepared. And so one of the things that they had told me is that Trevor and then Josh Bard as well told me, he was like, hey, Hoffy has his own set of signs. Here's what they are. Do not go out to the mound when he comes in. I'm like, okay, got it. Like, set of signs weren't complicated. Like, it was like a second sign or a sign after two. I mean, it wasn't like, that wasn't the problem. It was, anybody who had caught would know that this is an easy set of signs to remember. So for those who don't know who Trevor Hoffman is or have seen him finish a game at Petco Park, it's quite the experience, because obviously he's coming in a safe situation, and they kind of turn down the lights. Hell's Bells comes on, and it'll get your heart pumping. And I don't know that you'd have to be a huge baseball fan to experience that. I would imagine if that you've ever been to a concert or something, and that first note of your favorite song comes on, that you kind of get chills. Well, that's what it's like to be in the ninth inning at Petco Park when Trevor throws. So it's we're winning 5-3. It's the bottom of the ninth, and I go out too soon. That's the first part. So when Trevor comes in, it's like they wait a little bit. So I run out, and I'm out there way before him, and then the lights go on, and the Hell's Bells plays, and I'm just sitting there at home plate waiting. And he's running in from center field at the time, and I go out just out of habit. You always go out to meet the reliever that comes in. At no point in my career, I'd never not gone out to meet the pitcher on the mound. And so I run out there just oblivious, head in the sand. And, he's got his game face on, and he's normally just this fun-loving guy. And he's like, he means business. So he's kind of giving me this look, and I'm like, all right, this guy's serious. And, he just stares at me. And I was asking him, I'm like, what sign do you want to go with? And he just kind of stares at me. He's like, you don't remember? And I was like, oh, crap. And I just ran back, because I remembered that I wasn't supposed to go out there. That's what I remembered. So then I'm going back to the thing, and I was so shocked and like scatterbrained. I forgot what the signs were. Like I told him, I was like, yeah, I remember. And I went back, and I'm like, I have no idea. And so it took, so I'm calling the game, and I still don't know. And I'm trying to think of, like, one, what pitch should I call? Two, what's this hitter trying to do? Like, trying to read the swings. And then three, trying to figure out what the signs are, just in case there's somebody who gets to second base, because I have no idea. And what I don't want to do is run back out there again. So anyways, it took a batter for me to remember what the signs were, and he ended up getting through it, and we won the game. So, but yeah, it was if there was ever a rookie mistake to make, that was my story. I was able to make it in the first game, the first day.
Oh, I'm glad you were able to share that. Thanks, Luke.
Yep.
I guess we'll wrap up on this then, since you had mentioned how important these relationships were to you and sharing moments with your teammates. Do you have any of those moments or stories from your minor league or major league career that really are at the forefront of your mind when you think back on it?
Yeah, I think that there's a couple. I think that there's, one of the first, like, it kind of happened in a row with the Indians when I was traded over to Columbus in 2010, kind of coming in towards the back end of a season, and then, building those relationships with the players on that team, and then us winning the Governor's Cup in Columbus, and then going on to win the International League Championship as well. A lot of celebrating with those guys in that room, and then being able to do it with some of them again in 2011 was really cool. But two in particular, I remember, was actually funny or coincidental that one of them texted me yesterday, but I was able to catch Vinny Pastano's major league debut, and that was really cool because he was one of my better friends on the team at the time, and we had shared a lot of time on the bus, and so it was great to see him, and he was able to go on and have a pretty successful career throwing at the back end of the bullpen for us at the major league level. So that was really interesting. He was able to strike out Miguel Cabrera. And then, Scott Barnes, he was a lefty that we had as well that kind of bounced up and down. And he was a really good left-handed pitcher, and I was able to catch his major league debut as well. So it's fun. One, the sense that you're like, wow, I really get to be a part of this with them. And then, just seeing their excitement and see how they can compete and knowing that that's not going to be a moment they forget as well. So I would say that those particularly in Cleveland, and I've been fortunate to have other opportunities with other organizations as well, but the ones most relevant to us here in Cleveland would be those.
That's awesome, Luke. Thanks so much for sharing and for taking the time today.
Yeah, thanks, Lefty.